Here we are, JC Unplugged with one of my favorite guys out there. He's a comedian, he's a voice actor, voiceover star, international superstar, actor. He does it all. He is Jeff Leach. What's up, buddy?
How are you, man? Thank you so much for having me on. A pleasure.
You're a Renaissance man. You do it all out there. Do you have a favorite comedy voiceover work? Do you have something favorite that you do?
Guess my driving force has always been acting, for sure. I started out as an actor. That was what my main passion was. In fact, I only started the stand-up comedy to get away from the TV hosting. I used to be a TV host on BBC in the UK. And unlike in America, like you, JC, you can be a star, right? You can be a radio host. You can be a voiceover guy. You can be a TV host. You can be the owner of the best haircut in the entirety of the Nevada state. You you can sort of be a multifaceted star out here. Whereas in the UK, because we're a tiny little island, you know, it's very much one career, one choice. You know, what are you? Are you TV? Are you film? Are you acting? So after a few years in the TV presenting world, I realized that I would never get an opportunity to act in anything if I continued down that path. So I kind of took a step back on the TV presenting, started stand-up as almost a gateway drug back into acting. And I got hooked on the gateway drug, unfortunately. So now I have to be a stand-up comic until the day I die as well. So yeah, that's how it all came about. But yes, acting, I guess, would be the driving force, really.
You mentioned, and you and I was looking, the first time I met you was back in July 16th, 2019 was the first time that I interviewed you. And just, I mean, I fell in love with you. Just amazing energy. You're a lot of fun on the show. And you've been coming on Las Vegas now for the past 6 years.
You
were
told
on
me
this
I'm a
week.
record holder. I'm
You are.
officially the comedian who's been on the show the most now.
It's you. And I was trying to think who's in second place. Carlos Mencia? Maybe
Okay,
second
all
place.
right, okay. Well, that's not necessarily the company I want to be in, you know. Not with the rumors that fly around about him taking other people's jokes, but, you know.
Yeah, right. You got a lot of heat for that stuff, huh?
Carlos Mencia, they call him, yeah.
Do they really?
They do. That's the nickname in the industry, yeah. I mean, I don't know the guy personally, but I wouldn't want him to be watching my set. That's for sure.
Is that a thing outside of Carlos Mencia? Is that, because you've heard of other comedians doing that? Is
Yeah.
that a thing where comedians will walk in the back of the room and they'll write down jokes and just take it on their own?
I don't know if it's that vindictive, that calculated, perhaps, but there's definitely comedians who take other people's material. And then there's also a lot of parallel thought. So it's hard to work out what's what. But if a comedian starts doing a bit of material that sounds suspiciously like one of your bits of material and they've seen you perform a bunch of times, then it's quite possible. Sometimes it's subconscious. But most of the time, I think it's just laziness, you know, or a desire to have new material. Especially once people are very successful, there can often be a need to generate as much new material as possible. And either they or one of their writers might have seen a comedian perform a bit and then gone, oh, yeah, this is a great concept, not knowing or not fully realizing that they're actually just hijacking someone else's material. So I'm always careful of that. And I call it out where I see it, you know.
Well, one of your favorite bits is when you break down the 7 dirty words. That's one of my favorite bits that you do.
My 7 dirty words. That's not me. That's definitely not me. Are you taking the mic? Wait, who does that bit?
That's the famous George Carlin bit from like it was like in the 70s or 80s. He'll break down like the 7 dirty words you can't say. I don't know why that was the first comedy bit that I thought of to accuse you of stealing jokes.
It was a very dated reference that threw me off slightly, but you're right. George Carlin is one of my heroes, and I do know the 7 dirty words bit. I
couldn't think of any other comedy bit to use in that joke, so I had to go to George Carlin skit from 1978.
Yeah, you could have done Burt Kreischer. You could have been like, every time you take your shirt off and talk about being the machine, I love that bit. That would have been at least mildly topical.
No. I went George Carlin. You've mentioned this before.
He's a legend. And actually, you know what? I feel like more listeners will know of George Carlin than they will of these other comedians necessarily.
And I feel like, too, I think you some of the 7 dirty words. I think you can say some of them now, too, on TV. I'm not going to get into it.
I'm British. I say all of them. I say the dirtiest word, and we all know what that one is, don't we?
No, which is that?
It begins with the letter C, and I think we'll just leave it there. Yeah.
Yes. I've always wanted to ask you this question. You've always mentioned TV presenting, but you never got into detail of what you did. Were you like a daytime talk show host? Were you a reporter? What was TV presenting for you back in
when I
the BBC?
First started, my first job, I was actually I was backstage of a major music festival on the Isle of Wight, which is called Bestival, and I was there DJing. This was a previous life. I used to DJ and produce for Ministry of Sound and Island Records, like dance tracks, and I was there, and I'd actually died at that festival. Technically, my heart stopped for a number of seconds in a medical tent from a cocktail of drinking and drug taking that I was.
Oh.
Yeah. This was back in my very heavy party days,
Uh-huh.
and I was advised to go to the hospital and hop in a taxi because they had no more ambulances on site. And I refused that. I went to the artist area. I had 14 hours of sleep in my tent. And then I woke up and did another line of a suspicious substance that I probably shouldn't have been doing. And then went straight back down into the festival. Anyway, at that festival, I met a TV producer from the BBC who said, "You're hilarious. You should be a TV host." And I said, "Great, give me a screen test." And she was true to her word. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in a room auditioning for BBC executives to be the host of this youth chat show. So my first TV show was a kind of a live format youth chat show. So think, 150 teenagers sitting in a room, Jerry Springer style, but not Jerry Springer in style, if that makes sense. It was
Hmm.
more of a heartfelt chat with youngsters about issues and topical issues that might affect them and affect the world at greater large, sort of picture. And then off the back of that, I started doing music festivals. I was hosting a lot of live music festivals. I did Big Brother's Big Mouth. So I did the offshoot show of the main TV show, the kind of the roundup show where we talked to all
Sure.
celebrities and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. A bunch of kind of entertainment shows for young people. I was part of this thing called BBC Switch, which was like me and Kelly Osbourne and Nick Grimshaw. We were all the hosts of these different shows. Yeah, so it started out in youth programming, and then that rapidly became more music content because I really enjoyed interviewing the bands. I was obviously tied to music as well with my own work as a DJ and playing
Hmm.
festivals. And then it ended up being immersive documentaries for the last portion of it. I really enjoyed the documentary making. I think you must have a similar experience. You've worked in TV for many years, and as much as you do very big established mainstream shows, you also have your passion projects and your content that you're really into.
Yeah.
Classic cars, I know for you, is a huge one. So you sort of find your way to the stuff that interests you most. And for me, it was the immersive documentary making. So I did an immersive documentary about sex addiction where I tried to revisit as many of my, I think at that time, 400 or 500 partners and sort of find out, oh, sorry, that's my dog joining the
On cue with
joining the
400.
interview.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah, this
It's
is
like,
one of
you
my
go,
partners who's
Dad.
in the room right now. Whoops, don't tell my girlfriend. Um, anyway, so I
You
did
try
that
to go back and
documentary.
track down as many as because I didn't know this about you, and I discovered it recently. I was reading some articles about you, and the article I read at this point, you had 300 conquest. That number's 400 or 500 conquest connections.
By now, quite, yeah, considerably more than that now, I guess. Maybe a couple of, go like maybe 800-900 people. I
But
don't know.
now you try to go back
I
and try
say
to
people,
connect.
women. They were all women. I just want to clarify. I don't want to destroy my gay fandom because I do have a nice gay fan base,
You do, yeah.
and who knows? I could one day, gentlemen. Who knows? But
Taking
no,
numbers now. But you try to go
yeah,
back and reconnect with all these ladies.
I did, yeah, and I talked to quite a few of them for the documentary. I did another documentary about male escorting as well, where I went undercover and became a male escort and had a client. I got paid for sex. It was a rock and roll period of TV hosting for me, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, last week I was at opening of a restaurant. My gosh.
There you go.
Two different styles of TV hosting.
I mean, I'd pay you for a session though, mate. I think you could be a high
Thank
class
you.
escort. You've got a wonderful jawline, great smile, winning smile. He's a gentle lover. That's what I've heard from his wonderful lady. She said that he's
Yeah,
kind and
my wonderful
considerate
wife
and
of 20
everything.
some years. Yeah.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah, she said he was very considerate and.
I wrote something down. So you were dead then at one point. You're technically dead.
Well,
Do you have any?
no. I mean, my heart stopped for a few seconds. Yeah.
Yeah, your heart stopped beating. Do you have any recollection of that when you were?
No.
your
It
heart-
was just I went into the dance tent. Sorry, I was in the final dance tent about 6 a.m. at this festival, and then I felt a great cold wash come over me. It was as if death had put his hand on my shoulder, and I felt very cold, and my heart rate was incredibly erratic. It was like boom, boom, boom. So I said to my friends, we should probably go to the medical tent. I don't feel right. And then I got in there, I sat down, I started telling the lady all the drugs and drinks that I'd been taking. And then the next thing I knew, I woke up and I was on an intravenous drip and people were panicking around me. And one of my friends was in tears, and the other one was staring. And I sort of went, "What's wrong?" And they were like, "Your heart stopped. Your heart stopped." Anyway, so yeah, it was not my finest hour, but I think I've diced with death, and I've narrowly avoided death on maybe 3 occasions at this point in my life, and I feel like that was one of the many experiences that gave me more lease of life to live properly, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense because I think there's people like that that have experienced that near death moment. And I had one when I was 16.
Okay,
I
what
was
happened to you?
I was in a car accident. I was a passenger in my buddy's car, and we were just being dumb. And he's racing down these backcountry roads doing 80 miles per hour, and he gets airborne, and we land and we hit a tree head on at 80 miles per hour,
Oh
just
my
dead
goodness.
center. And we just hit the backcountry road, hit the tree, and you see a tree. This tree is right in front of you. I'm thinking to myself, I'm gonna die. There's nothing I can do. I'm going to die. And
Right.
you hit that tree and you black out for maybe 10, 15 seconds. And then all of a sudden it's like you come to, and it's a second lease on life, and had to get out of the car, and we had to go get help and surgeries and operations and
I
everything.
take it
But
you were wearing a seatbelt, so you
yeah.
managed to, thank goodness for that. Otherwise, you wouldn't
And
be here for sure.
and the police officer said to us too, he said, the one thing that your buddy did right was he hit that tree dead center. If it would have been an inch to the left or inch to the right, it would have split the
One
car in
of you.
half. We'd both be dead. But
Yeah, yeah.
I'll never forget that exact moment of seeing that tree and going, this is it. There's nothing I can do. I'm going to die. But by the
Yeah.
grace of God, I woke up, and you get a second lease on life. And it does change the way you think and appreciate things and approach life after something like that.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think people who come out of a near-death experience, maybe this is why I do a lot of stuff with the vets, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I think my relationship to them is multifaceted. It's not just people who've had near-death experiences, have some PTSD, potentially some trauma relating to that. Mental health issues, obviously, there's a lot of crossover there because I do a lot of mental health advocacy. And but I also think that desire to live that comes off the back of that, if you're not continuing to try and put yourself in dangerous situations, which
Mm-hmm.
I certainly did for a period of my life, once you get beyond some of the trauma or do a bit of therapy or work through some of your personal issues, I find there's a lot of crossover between, a veteran mindset and people who have navigated trauma of some kind. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you didn't die in that car. That would have been a loss for the world, man.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a life change.
Did you have injuries from it? Did you have like
I
serious
I
injuries
did
from
he
it?
did. It was wild. I shattered all the knuckles in
Okay.
my left hand. I
Okay.
had my left. It was all left side. I had a hairline fracture in my hip, and then I broke all of my toes on my left foot as well. So it
Wow.
was all left side. And they think because like the impact, I was holding on to like the handrail on the passenger side, and
Right.
this arm was just free, and so this arm must have just flew up.
And
And
smack.
then
Yeah.
I was trapped. We were trapped in the car, and so I had to turn, and I had to kick the window out to get out. And they think that I might have broke my toes when I kicked the window out.
Right.
So I
Right. Right.
had to get out, and then literally we had to walk like a mile and a half to we get out. It's pitch black. We see a light up ahead, and we go up to this house. And I'll never forget this. My buddy, he was all head up. He was face because he went into the steering wheel. No airbags in his car at the time. And
No.
we got to the house, and it was pitch black, so I didn't see him until we got to this house, and they turned on the porch light, and that's when I see my buddy. He's all, just covered in blood. I'm like, oh boy, this is bad.
So you
But we're
messed
here.
up the entire left-hand side of your body. But fortunately, you also dressed to the left, so that probably cushioned your impact somewhat because of your absolutely disgustingly huge hog. You knew what you
Jeffrey.
were letting yourself in for. Come on. You've met me before. This is
I know.
this is the After Hours podcast, no?
It is. The rules are kind of loose. The rules are kind of loose on this show.
I didn't say anything too rude. I mean, like,
No, it wasn't. It was a compliment. It was a compliment. Your work with the vets, transitioning from that to your work with. When did you start all your work with the vets? When did you get into all of that?
I did a video game a few years ago called Call of Duty. I played a
Call of what?
character. Oh, Call of Duty. Call of Duty.
I've never heard of it. Is it
There you
fun?
go. No one's ever heard of it. They had a couple of players. I think 150 million around the world at some point. But it was So I got to do that for a few games. I did Modern Warfare 2019. I did Call of Duty Mobile, and I did Warzone as well. Huge amounts of veterans and also serving military play the game. In fact, they actually get consoles and get the game for bases because they like their
Yeah.
military members to actually play it. It keeps them locked in. It keeps in a mindset, a warfare mindset as well, and keeps a lot of those skills honed. Hand-eye coordination, etc. So I started connecting with this group. I became friends with a bunch of the people who were watching me. Some of them became my moderators. Effectively like chat moderators and things like that. When I was live streaming, and I ended up doing a lot of work with the U.S. Air Force and various US vets and various other charities like Gold Star Gamers or Merging Vets and Players. And just my veteran community grew and grew and grew. And like I say, I started to learn there was a lot of crossover in the way that some of these people think and how I think, especially once you come out of something maybe a little changed, maybe a bit more grown than when you went into it. A lot of young men
Mhm.
and women sign up for the military and not quite sure why they're doing it necessarily, or they haven't necessarily worked out what it is they want to do yet. So the prospect of travel and seeing different countries and getting all these skills is very appealing. And a lot of those people come out of that time in service. A lot of them enjoy it, but a number of them can be quite changed by it or a little disillusioned with their time in service, and the support they're given afterwards. So that's why it became more and more important for me to do more and more work. I also think as you succeed in life, as you're enjoying successes, personal successes in your career, you have to balance that out in equal measure with service that you give back. So I've been very fortunate over the last few years. Career has been good. It's been growing. It's been building a strong foundation of success. And it became more and more important to be more active. So I've now officially partnered with US Vets. I'm an ambassador for Merging Vets and Players. In fact, after this session, I'll go and do a creative writing and stand-up comedy course for Merging Vets and Players for a bunch of veterans. And yeah, I'm very grateful because it's some really intelligent, worldly wise people amongst that community,
Well, it's cool things that you're doing because this thing you're doing is you're going to teach vets if they want to get into stand-up comedy
Correct.
or
Well,
speaking
creative
engagements.
writing, yeah.
Is you'll be teaching them kind of the process that you go through and show them how you do your work.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Merging Vets and Players, it's originated with two guys who set it up, and they were really focused about bringing pro athletes. There was a crossover between pro athletes and veterans once they're both out of service or out of their
Mhm.
professional sports careers. There can be a lot of the same issues, a lot of depression, a lot of PTSD, some trauma relating to that. So they started connecting these guys up. But so it was mostly MMA fighters and NBA stars and NFL stars connecting with them. And they said, we've got enough muscular, handsome men. We need a silly looking one from England with a funny accent. And that's why they opened up the creative writing
Handsome,
comedies.
handsome,
Oh, you're
handsome,
very
silly
sweet.
man,
Thank you. But
handsome man. And so you'll teach them creative writing, which is really cool. You're always, like you said, your dedication to service and giving back. You're always doing stuff. I remember, was it the LA wildfires? I remember seeing you on social media where there's a neighborhood that the trees were down and you went and just bought a chainsaw and you're out there
yeah, I didn't
just
even
cleaning up
know.
neighborhoods.
That would have been a more intelligent choice. I took my handsaw out and
So what was it?
so I try when the fires were going on in LA, I assumed that there'd be an opportunity to go and assist firefighters in some way. So I went to the local fire station. I said, "Look, I want to be a volunteer firefighter, or can I be? I'm I got my SARE accreditation. Can I assist? What can I do?" And they basically told me to bugger off. They said there was nothing you can really do. You could become a firefighter. You're still young enough, just about, but. I wanted some way to give back. I just wanted to do something. I felt very impotent, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word. I felt useless in that moment. This terrible
Yeah.
thing is happening to all these people, and I felt useless to be able to do anything. So I decided that I would just go around my local neighborhood. That a bunch of trees had been had come down. There were branches covering roads. There was an elderly family around the corner who half of their tree had just fallen down in their front yard. And people who were just kind of struggling, and the services that were provided by LA weren't necessarily up and running yet, or they were a bit spread thin. So yeah, I just
Uh-huh.
went out with a big saw and just started chopping down trees in my local neighborhood.
That's
And
what it
that,
was. You did that. One arm is big, really, real big now.
yeah, exactly. No, I was looking at a scar. One of the branches, when I was cutting it down out the tree, it kind of split and scratched up, and I've got a nice big scar across my wrist and forearm here where I got hit by the branch. So, a nice little reminder.
These were big. I know, but these are some big. I remember watching the video, and you're like, "I'm going to tackle this tree," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"You're still like," and you took the tree down,
Yeah, I was there
stacked the
for
wood
ages.
really
Yeah.
nice, and you moved on to the next one.
Yeah. Yeah. I like being active. I like doing stuff. I think there's two types of people. You know, there's people who run away from a crisis, and there's people who run towards it. You know, and I like
Mhm.
running towards it.
That's
Um,
good. Says a lot about
well,
you.
it's I don't know if it's good or bad. It's useful maybe in some situations. I'm sure in other situations it's not useful. But that's the way that my trauma shaped me. I kind of have to run towards it and go, I have to be a hero. I must do something. You know, but I don't. There is a self-serving part of it. I think feeling useful, you know, the validation that I've done something today. But I'm trying to get to a place where it all just comes from a genuine just need to help the local community out. You know, so the more
Well,
you do things
you're
like that,
doing good out there.
thanks, man. I'm trying.
Your Hulu Predator movie that you're in right now.
But yeah, have you watched it? Have you seen it?
Then I've not watched it yet.
You got to watch
I
it.
heard about it.
Genuinely, an incredible movie, and it's
I plan on
animated.
watching this
So
weekend. We were talking about it just not even 24 hours ago is when you were telling me about it.
yeah.
How do you land a role in a movie like that? And who were some of the co-stars that you voiced worked with in that movie?
Yeah, I mean, well, so in Predator, actually the cast is pretty impressive. You'd have to you'd have to pull it up at your end and read off the cast list because
I will.
it's been a little while since I've looked
Oh,
at.
when did you record that? I guess recorded is the word. When did you do that?
I recorded it maybe towards the end of last year, I believe, and yeah, or actually maybe the beginning of this year. I think it was might have just been this year. Dan Trachtenberg is the director. He did the previous Predator movie, the live action one, Predator Prey, that was so
Uh-huh.
successful. He's just done this one, which is an animated. So if you enjoy things like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, you know, or if you enjoyed Arcane, that animated series on Netflix, it's very similar to that in terms of its art style. But Dan Trachtenberg is incredible. You know, he did like 10 Cloverfield Lane, The Boys,
Oh yeah, that
Stranger
was a great
Things.
movie.
He's
Yeah.
done some huge series on TV and some huge movies. And I think he's doing a third movie, actually, Predator Badlands. The process is literally just, you know, auditions come through to my voiceover agent, and I sit in a little box in my room at home. I've got a little office with a little voice booth in it, and I just I record it, you know, and maybe try not to fart too much in there because it's a very confined space, and then I send it off and hope that they can't smell the residue odor whilst they're digesting my audition piece and then like me enough. So it's a very simple process. It used to be lots of in-person stuff. For acting now, even on-screen acting, most of it you just do at home. You know, you sit in front of a camera, self-tape. That personal element has been lost somewhat. But Dan
Yeah.
Trachtenberg, the director, and I, when I booked the job, he was on the recording session, you know, remotely from New Zealand. I think he was in New Zealand at the time shooting something, and he jumped on and was like, "Hey, man, I remember you from 15 years ago. Did you do stand up in Cannes Film Festival for a bunch of producers?" I was like, "Yeah, I did. I was there for a production company roasting all of their directors and all their partners, their advertising partners and things like that over this weekend in Cannes, basically getting drunk on rosé wine and just making fun of rich people. It was great." And he said, "I was there. I was one of the directors, and I saw you 15 years ago." He said, "That's not why you got the job." He said, we do blind casting, so I just listened to all the voices, and yours was the voice that I wanted." He said, "So I want you to know there was no nepotism involved. You know, you didn't get the job because I remembered you. But once I recognized your name, I wanted to jump on and say hello. And what a nice full circle moment that I'm getting to
That is
work with
cool.
you."
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I was stoked because, you know, he's obviously blown up and done so well. So it's nice to have been remembered by a talented director like that.
But when you do a movie like this, how does that work as far as voice acting? They just give you a script and you're just reading line by line, or you
Yeah,
actually do you act out scenes with other
no,
people?
I mean, you might do some lines from scenes. It depends what it is. I mean, most voice acting auditions come through with a very simplistic breakdown. You're not allowed to know what the character really is or what the game is. It's all under secret project names. So it'll be Project Banana Shake, and then it'll be like
Mhm.
you're reading for the character of Mr. X, but it'll give you a brief example of what they are. Mr. X is a very successful TV and radio host who has wonderful hair, incredible jaw structure, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I go, well, I
Yeah.
know who I'm going to base that on. It's going to be, of course, JC Fernandez, you know, and I'll channel that element of myself, portray that, and then hopefully they like it. But really it is a bit of a hit and miss. You know, you do the read that you think matches the character that's described, and
Mhm.
hopefully they like it enough. That's
How many
really it.
reads? How many voice auditions do you normally do a year?
A year, God knows. I definitely do at least like 1 or 2 a day, that come through.
You do?
And
Really?
yeah, yeah, my voice agents are good, and I'm very grateful to them. They get me, lots of submissions. And there's always stuff being made, and it's from a myriad of stuff. Some of it will be live action, some of it will be dubbing over animated shows, some of it will be video game, AAA video games, some of it's dubbing live shows as well, So it's always an interesting mix of stuff, and there's some narration or commercial stuff as well.
But when you're actually when you get the part, you're playing Ivar for this Ivar, right?
Ivar, yeah, yeah.
Sorry, Ivar. We were playing
Ivar.
Ivar in this movie. When they give you the script, are you doing your line and are you all in a room
No, no,
reading it?
no, very
You're still
solo
separate.
process, man. Yeah, it's very
That's
antisocial.
how hard is that to not be able to have someone to react off of when you give me some dramatic line or something?
It's definitely a skill set, to like learn how to portray enough emotion when you don't really have anyone to bounce off. But
Mhm.
but again, you get used to it. I try and always put myself when I'm in the booth into the character. So I'm very physical when I'm in the booth, as long as you don't slap your hands together or make any background noise, rustling shirts. I like to move, I like to be physical, I like to encapsulate the character in a very physical and visceral form, and I hope that gives a more energetic and pure performance when I do my reads. But
Do you dress up to really get into the part when you do the
I
reads?
dress down. I normally just throw on a thong and just go out, have at it. I told you it gets quite hot and sweaty in that booth. So
I
yeah,
would
the
though.
less
I would
clothing, the
dress
better,
up if I'm
really.
playing like if I'm voicing a James Bond
Right.
something. I would put on like a really nice suit to mentally get myself in the role. If I'm
I love
playing
that.
a warrior or something, I would need
This
to
is why you'll always be more successful than me, JC. You go that extra mile, and that's the difference. See?
walk in dressed like a
Yeah.
barbarian to your voiceover session. I want to dress the part so I fully get into that
You
character.
turn up
That
to
would
the
just be me.
audition, you be in a full Dickie bow, and I'd be there with just a piece of dental floss hanging between my cheeks, and that's why one of us will be successful and one of us won't.
You are highly you sometimes downplay your success. And I know you're joking around, but you're so successful, and I'm so happy that you're my friend. And I always say this. I feel like you you have a very successful career, but I just feel like you're just one role to punching through and just being a like international on all the late night shows, like just an international superstar. You're already a major star. I just feel like
You're very
that's going to
sweet.
happen the next year, and you're going to take off even more, and then
I
you're going to
appreciate
forget
that,
about me.
man. I'm glad you feel that way, and I think that, the more people that feel that way about me, the more likely that is to happen. I also look, I'm 41, JC, and I've been in entertainment for 21 years now, or actually 22 years. I started when I was 19 as a producer on a commercial radio station. That was my first job while I was at college. I was doing that part-time. And we talk about this, the 20-year overnight success stories that
Mhm.
most people have. And unless you do blow up as a child star, or unless you have nepotism or immensely wealthy parents in your court, which, some people do, most people are then 20-year overnight success stories, I think that for me, success was never the most followers, the biggest fan base, the biggest movies in the world. That's not success to me, because for a lot of people who get to enjoy that kind of portion of their career, that might be all of their career. They can have this huge peak and then it bottoms out and then you don't really hear from them again. For
Mhm.
me, success was always, if I can pay my rent, pay my bills, and keep my life going by doing entertainment, if I don't have to go and get that part-time job or that other job, which I did plenty of when I was a younger man. I worked 3 jobs while I was going through college. I've never shied away from hard work. I've worked flipping burgers when I was at college. I've done all I've worked my way up. I've done made
Yeah. Uh-huh.
in the coffees at the radio station for 6 months as an intern before I got the job. So I've done all that stuff. But I think success is and a gradual and metered rise up the ladder as you go along. So as I get more mature, as I make less mistakes in my career, as I learn more about myself and what I really want to do and how I really want to entertain people, as I become more vulnerable and less insecure, as my ego dies and the true Jeff continues to blossom and present himself to the world, I've been enjoying more success. And I think that's good, because if I'd had more success as a much younger man, I would have screwed it up more. I already made mistakes in my career. I've said,
Mhm.
done things that I regret. I've, acted like an ass on occasion. I've definitely been guilty when I was very self-loathing and very down on myself, which was a large portion of my life. Um, I was quite self-destructive to some extent
Mhm.
as well. And now I don't have any of those traits anymore. I've ironed them out. I've done therapy. I've worked through it. Sobriety has helped as well for the last 6 years.
You
So
mentioned that. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to say, for me, I feel like I'm very grateful that you recognize success in my career. I do feel that way as well. And I think that that is what success is being able to continually work in the jobs that you love, to elevate the kinds of artists you get to work with, the kinds of colleagues you get to work with. Like,
Mhm.
you work on one of the best TV networks out here in Vegas. You have a presence within your community. I know that you just got to do the parade as well. You got to do the parade last night.
Yeah, the Summerlin Parade, yeah, yeah.
So you're getting all of these like opportunities coming your way, and it's because you do a great job. You're consistent. You
Thank you.
turn up. You look great. You sound great, and you continue working to be a better host, a better presenter, a
Mhm.
better entertainer. Uh, One day I will be appearing on the late night show, but you'll be hosting it. That's my plan, because we're going to be like,
Yeah, that'll be the moment, and we'll go back and we'll reference stuff like this, like, "Do you
we love it.
remember?"
Truly,
Yeah.
man, truly. And I think if that's what your goals are, if that's what you set your aspirations to, as long as you continue growing, and uh, the hardest part of growth and development within the entertainment industry is acknowledging your own and being very vulnerable and very open about your own insecurities. Once you eradicate insecurities, you're kind of beyond powerful. You can achieve whatever you want. And so it's taken me quite a few years, 20 years, but I've dug into those insecurities. I've opened them up and I've gone, oh, I was a bit of a wanker back then. I'm glad
Mhm.
I'm not like that anymore. This was coming from a place of weakness. I'm glad I've gotten rid of that so I can be strong in that area rather than weak now. And that's what career success for me is. I hope I'm 80 and I still get to act in movies and do TV shows and things like that.
Yeah, the same thing. I still wanna be doing all this stuff as I get older. I don't wanna be the same version of myself that I was 6 months ago, a year ago. I wanna be constantly evolving and
Perfect.
changing and growing and moving on and just keep growing my career. I love what I do.
Here's a
You
question
talk
though. Do you think, sorry, before you hop into your
Good.
next one, do you think there's even going to be a role for us though? And I say that both presenter, host, and also actor. Do you think we'll even have jobs in 5 years' time? Or will all of us be replaced by AI generated TV hosts, AI generated actors? Because I'm genuinely concerned about it.
I know people bring it up. I'm not concerned, and I know people talk about, I'm out of radio, but radio being a dying industry, and then what's happening with TV. But I think as long as there's personalities, and we might be delivered in a different format. Look at radio; it's now podcasting. That's how people get their stuff. Or Sirius XM. I think with TV, then it's just is the shift to streaming. We're on a streaming platform right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the shift might be how people receive the information is going to be different, but I still think people want
Human.
personalities. And then for us here, for what I do, they want local. They want to turn on the news or turn on a channel and see someone that lives in Las Vegas and
Sure.
knows Las Vegas and lives in their community. And I think people like yourself, as long as we have personalities and or we're sincere, I think we'll be fine. I'm not worried.
Okay, good. Well, I hope you're right. Because I'm concerned in 5 years' time, kids will just be given a laptop and they'll go, what would you like to watch today, Timmy? And Timmy will say, I want a superhero series, but it's my face as the lead character.
Yeah.
And I want it to be like the Avengers, but not the same, because I want powers that are like electronic powers. I want lightning powers in my hands and blah, blah, blah. Make it like The Boys, a bit dark. And then they'll go, blah, 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 computing. Okay, here's your series. Do you like this trailer? And it'll play a 1-minute trailer and he'll pick whichever trailer he likes and they'll make a whole series out of that. And we'll be out of a job. He'll be done. And
Well,
then we
here's
can all
something
start a compound together and grow vegetables. And me and you can run a hair farm for men
let's
with
go.
great hair. It's going to be good.
Let's get a ranch and we'll start a hair farm.
This does sound pretty homoerotic. Let's start a ranch for men with good hair.
That's all we do. Who stays at your ranch? Men with good hair.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be on their head either. You know what I mean?
Anywhere, anywhere.
Anywhere, just good hirsute gentlemen. That's what it's going to be called.
I think this is I think I like what this is something that YouTube just did is you can no longer monetize AI generated videos or voices.
Yeah.
because I've got my car show that I do on YouTube, and it's also on Instagram and everything. But a lot of times, someone will take a snippet of my car show. If I list a
Mm.
'67 Camaro and I did it, and they'll take part of it and put it in a different video and have an AI voice, and it doesn't
And they
really
won't even
bother me.
tag you. They won't tag you. They won't give
They
you
don't tag
any
you, yeah, and
credit, of
it
course. Yeah.
happens, but then they monetize it and they're making money off of it. And that's like, wait a second, you're making money off of my videos. So
Yeah.
now it just started last week. YouTube has changed it where you can't take someone else's content. You can still take it, you just can't monetize it. And same with, you see all those AI, there's that one AI voice that does everything. You
Mhm.
can't monetize those videos either. So I think that's great for people like yourself and me that have original content out there.
It would
We
have
can
been
still
nice if they'd
monetize.
done that about 4 years ago when all this started, but
Yeah, it's
it's
true.
taken them that long to work it out, but. Yeah, no,
I
I
always
mean, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think there always will be a need for human interaction. My hope is that the one thing that I think is protected as an actor and as a stand-up is live performance. The one thing AI can't do, AI can generate a very realistic looking human being a stand-up comedian telling jokes, I'm sure, and they could write prompts and you wouldn't know anymore these days if it's a real person or not. I mean, look at the success of someone like Matt Rife, with a very clever marketing campaign, a very clever set of clips that were
Mhm.
very, very, they were done. This was a marketing campaign. Like Matt Rife's success was not an accident. It wasn't an overnight thing. He went and got a nice jaw implant and whatever else he got, a chin implant, and then allegedly, and then they got a couple of great clips that were kind of set up and stylized with a woman who was kind of an actress, and that launched this sexy man who all the cougars want. That was really the sales pitch, right?
Yes,
And then as AI now, you've got AI influencers who are indistinguishable from real life humans. They're just more perfect and have no blemishes, etc., and no working hours. They can work any time of the day. And those people have got millions of followers, these creators. You've got AI. Timberland just signed AI artists to his label, whose voices were based on other artists who submitted music to him,
uh,
that's going to be a whole issue.
yeah.
But when you see things like that, people hiring AI artists, which is ridiculous. That's an insane concept. I think that the only thing that AI won't be able to do is be physically on a stage in front of a room full of people, connecting with them, making them laugh, and
Mhm.
doing it off the cuff. So that's a skill that I know I have that actually a lot of stand-ups don't even have, improv or working with a crowd work, that kind of stuff. And that's why we see, do you know an artist, a comedian called Morgan J? Have you ever heard of Morgan J? You may have seen clips of his on social media. He's the guy that uses the auto tune. What's your name, bro? And he like sings to his audience with
No,
auto tune. So Morgan's a good friend of mine. He's got maybe, I don't know, 6 million followers on TikTok now or something. He's blown up. He's traveling
uh-huh.
all over the world. He's selling out huge stadiums and huge theaters everywhere in the world. And his clips came because it's audience participation turned into a show. And he's a great stand-up comic. He's also an incredible musician. But most of the reason he's successful is because he put a bit of auto-tune on and went, "What's your name?" and got people to sing, and they like laughing at each other. And that's what social media has done, is that you have to build that very visceral live action aspect of your show into something, into a brand. And he's done it wonderfully. So maybe that's where we'll all end up, just treading the boards, darling. I'd love to see you in a pair of tights doing a bit of Shakespeare, you know?
But that is you described your act, and that's what I love about watching you do stand up at a club, the Comedy Cellar, wherever it is. You're not just on stage telling jokes and telling stories, which you do a great job at, but you are interacting with that crowd. That crowd is part
Sure.
of your show. And if someone heckles you or says something or the way they're dressed, you're going to pick up on it and you're going to draw them in a fun way, draw them into your show. And that's something that I don't think AI can or will ever be able to do, is to pick up on that audience member by heckle to respond back. And you bring everyone into the show with you, and that what makes you so personable and your show different than others.
Well, thank you. I'm trying. That's certainly a thing I like to do. I think if you've got a myriad of skills under your belt,
Hmm.
then why wouldn't you try and build them into what it is that you do? But if I was being very business savvy and business minded, I would actually sit down and say, how do I push that element of my live performance? Because it is something that's mildly unique, at least to me.
Hmm.
There's other comedians who do big act outs and do crowd work, of course, but maybe not with quite the same. Uh, energetic gusto that I do. I don't know. So I would really try and work out how to push that element of it, and then also digitally timestamp that for an audience online so they can go, oh, cool, this is what this guy does. Great. That's unique. That's interesting. And like I say, Morgan is a great example of someone who did that. Morgan and I were, doing shows for 100 people in little backroom bars a few years ago. And now he's selling out 10,000 seat theaters, which is wild, but great, yeah.
I went to see Don Rickles in
So
one of his
funny.
final runs here in Las Vegas, and it had great seats. So sitting down front, and I was there with my buddy, and I'm like, I just wanted to be roasted by Don Rickles. I was waiting to be roasted by Don Rickles, and he didn't look my way, so I missed my opportunity.
Should have taken your shirt off.
That would have worked.
It would have. Look at those.
Well, listen, Jeff, man, thank you so much for doing this. This has been awesome to go long form with you, chat with you.
You too,
Comedy
man.
Cellar, you're all over the place, helping
2
out
minutes
vets. I
is
love you,
never
man.
enough for us on those morning shows. So it's nice to just sit with you and look at your beautiful face for a bit longer.
We normally go 3 minutes. It's nice to go an hour. This is very sweet.
Has it been an hour? Wow.
It's been an hour with commercials. It's an hour.
It's flown by. It's flown
It
by.
has.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you. Thank you for always being such a champion of the stuff that I do and supporting me. It means a lot, honestly. And you genuinely care about the people you talk to. So thank you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, Jeff. All right, buddy. Thank you so much. I will see you soon.
Bye bye.